So I'm going to take a moment to speak about Elena Westbrook as our speaker today. We often have guest speakers, but what happens when the speaker is actually someone who's a member of the community and in fact is the most senior worship associate? We tend to not give introductions. And I'm just going to take a moment to shimmy in and introduce Elena Westbrook. Absolutely. Elena is absolutely a Renaissance woman, and she writes, she sings, she is a musician, she is a person with deep knowledge about nature. She has served in many leadership positions in this church over the years. Along with Sarah Reiling, were the two beta testers of the Worship Associates program that the rest of us have been in for over a decade. She is a gifted writer, a gifted liturgist.
Hashtag Wonder Woman.
Hashtag Wonder Woman. It's Elena.
Oh, you are too kind.
She's back.
Yeah, I should have gotten my big bracelets. I will skip the bodysuit, though. All right, well, you should have seen my husband's face the first time I took him home to meet my parents. It had completely slipped my mind that people in Lubbock call me by a different name. To my family, I'm Nan Cotton. They picked us up at the airport. We drove around for a while so Daddy could show off all of the beautiful, lovely, and brown sights of Lubbock. We drove to Ransom Canyon. We drove around the Tech campus. Sidebar, Paul knew that I do not care for the color brown. After we got back to the house, he leaned over and he whispered to me, "Okay, I understand now why you don't like brown." But before that, we got back to the house. He also leaned over and he said, "Why are they calling you Nan?" I said, oh yeah, forgot that story, didn't I? So here's the story. When I was going into high school, I decided I was tired of being Nan. Nan Elena Cotton. It's the full birth. Tired of being socially awkward, tired of being the geeky little bookworm, tired of being the wallflower with the thick glasses. Nan seemed like a name for an old lady with a bun and a long skirt. The elegant, sophisticated, popular person I wanted to be. So debonair, so cosmopolitan, would have a different name, like Elena, my middle name. So this was the fantasy in my little 12-year-old brain. I set a goal, like a misplaced New Year's resolution, to be more outgoing, more social, more cool. And when I went from middle school to high school, I started introducing myself as Elena. Well, it kind of worked. As you have undoubtedly noticed over the years, I am still kind of a geeky bookworm, but I did slowly learn how to be a more outgoing, more social, less awkward person. So I was very interested to see that my brother's doctoral dissertation, a while back, he actually has a doctorate in ministry, turned on this concept of naming. He actually also changed his name. When we adopted him, he was Nathan. My parents put James on his birth certificate as a family name, and when he was in about junior high, he decided he wanted to go by James instead of Nathan. If you've been around the two of us together, you'll notice I slip sometimes and call him Nathan. Anyway, he was studying congregations trying to heal and move forward after different kinds of ministerial misconduct. He thought he knew all the critical steps that would be necessary for a church to regain its balance and restore its community. But as he began really studying the process, he realized there's a preliminary step before you can make that journey, before you can begin that healing: naming themselves. He writes, when a congregation undergoes change, it is in reality being renamed. And being renamed means these congregations first have to understand who they are. Good and bad, strengths and wounds, all the history any congregation drags behind it. Did you know that this congregation renamed itself? Before we moved into this building about 25 years ago, we were called Dallas North Unitarian Church. Pretty clever, huh? Very descriptive, Dallas North. Well, we weren't in Dallas. We were growing and moving into a new building, and the leadership at that time considered whether we should take on a new name. I don't remember a lot of the details about that. I was a brand new member and not really involved, except that there were surveys and votes. And I have a vague memory of All Souls being one of the contenders, and then there being some discussion between the humanists and the theists about whether, in fact, we were souls or not. We are very Unitarian Universalist. In the end, the winner was Community Unitarian Universalist Church. And although the acronym has never really been my favorite, how do you say that? CUUC? I think community is a good name for us. But there's a lot more to being named than just having a name. So remember what the cherubim tells Meg in The Wind and the Door. One of the cheap weapons in war and hate is unnaming, making people not know who they are. If someone knows who he is, really knows, then he doesn't need to hate. Remember, this was written a long time ago. The masculine pronoun, just take it as generic. I did not rewrite. Do we know who we are? Really know? With clarity and without judgment, do we understand what new being blazes into life when all of us, with all of our skills and strengths and foibles and weaknesses, come together and call ourselves community? So John Thornberg, a few weeks ago, suggested some questions we could ask ourselves as a congregation to figure out who we are and what we want. Do you remember these questions? First was, what story are we living? He gave the example of the story of the Israelites fleeing Pharaoh and some brave soul having to be the first one to put a toe into the water of the Red Sea. There are other mythological and cultural stories that we might be playing out, and it's good to bring that story to consciousness. The second question was, whom are we serving? And don't say the world. That is too vague. It's not helpful. Are we serving ourselves? Are we serving East Plano? Are we serving people who don't feel like they fit into Collin County red, right-wing conservative culture? I don't know. There are lots of people who could use our help. But if we try to serve everyone, we end up serving no one and burning out doing it.
Hell yeah.
The third question, which is in some ways a rephrasing of the second, is who is our neighbor? Now, John, being a good Methodist, was referring to the story of the Good Samaritan, which is how Jesus answered the question, who is our neighbor? But how do we answer it? And the final question, what's the evidence we're ready to move forward? We'll all have to just chew on that one for a while. That's not for today. Before we think about moving forward, we first have to know where we stand now. We have to be named, and I love the way Meg puts this, that knowing who we are and not mind being who we are. It doesn't mean thinking we're perfect as a congregation or as individuals. It means accepting honestly and without judgment who we are and where we stand. You all know change is coming. Not only do we have a new minister who arrives next week, but the world is not going to stop throwing change at us. It might not be another pandemic, although it might be. But let's face it, the political climate out there is not good for people who treasure freedom of thought and loving everyone. So we better be ready, not just as community UU, but also as individuals. Have you ever watched a tennis player prepare to receive a serve? They're balanced, but they're active. They're watching. They're ready to move. They are rooted. They know exactly where they stand, so they can quickly get to where they need to be. Do you know where you are? Do you feel grounded, rooted, centered? So when I was thinking about this question of knowing where we stand, I remembered something that my friends and I used to all do when I was a kid. So have you ever, or if you're a kid now, if you're a young person now, have you ever drawn a map of yourself or given a return address of you in the universe? I remember doing this. Nan Cotton, 9th Street, Lubbock, Texas, United States, North America, Western Hemisphere, Earth. And here comes the fun part. The solar system, the Milky Way galaxy, the local cluster, the universe. If you've never done that, try it sometime. It's kind of fun. You know, even saying it out loud right now really puts it in perspective. Universe, you are here. The point is, if we as a congregation and you as an individual have a clear sense of who we are and we know where we stand one by one and together, then we're like a tennis player ready to change directions or a tree with strong roots that can flex in the wind. If we feel secure in ourselves, then we won't need to resist change when it comes. And conversely, as we adapt to a new minister, to political and societal upheavals, if you find yourself clutching to, that's the way we've always done it, then maybe it's okay to just breathe a little and wonder, is that my insecurity and my fear speaking? It's okay if it is. We're all human. We all have insecurity. We all have fear. Kids, let me tell you, the grown-ups are absolutely terrified most of the time, too. The secret is just to breathe and let those feelings move through us and out again. Pema Chödrön, who is a Buddhist nun, observed an emotion like anger that's an automatic response, that's a physiological response, lasts just 90 seconds from the moment it's triggered until it runs its course. 1.5 minutes, that's all. When it lasts any longer, which it usually does, it's because we've chosen to rekindle it, to feed it. And brain science backs her up. The physiological response from the amygdala responding to inputs, causing a chemical surge that we experience as fear or anger or what have you, lasts about 90 seconds. Anything after that is a resurgence created by your own thought loops and self-talk. It's, I'm sitting there thinking, oh, that makes me so mad. I just want to do whatever. I'm just feeding it. I'm recreating it. I'm rekindling that emotion. So the question is, how do we escape those loops, name ourselves, and ground ourselves to handle change gracefully? Fortunately, the writer and pagan leader Starhawk has a wonderful grounding exercise to help us forge and then quickly access a connection to core self, which allows us to hold on to our identity and purpose even when everything around us is changing. So guess what? Today is a participation Sunday. We're all going to do this together. Welcome to the pagan world. Here's a little taste. So I love Starhawk's book called The 12 Wild Swans. She takes the story of it's the swan, there were 12 swan princes, and the lady who has to knit shirts for them so that they can stay human. They turn into swans every night and fly away. And she turns it into this wonderful journey, sort of a course in awakening and presence and all sorts of great things. So I highly recommended The 12 Wild Swans. She says the goddess traditions recognize that at the core of each person, each animal, each plant, each natural event, the same mystery is revealed. And you'll note that that's the same as UU theology, which says that we all share a common destiny. Each one of us is valued simply for being who we are. And I'm still quoting Starhawk here. Core value is not something we have to acquire, achieve, or prove. It cannot be ranked, and no one has more of it than anyone else. We may make mistakes or commit wrong acts, but we still are creatures of worth, part of a larger whole. When we are in touch with our core worth, we are firmly grounded in our own inherent value as human beings who are part of the divine. We're in neutral, relaxed, at ease, comfortably ourselves, not trying to impress anyone or project any image of who we are. So let's try an exercise together. Sit straight in your chair, feet on the floor. If you would like to, you may stand. It's up to you, but it's perfectly fine to stay sitting. But your spine should be straight, and just feel gravity holding you to the earth. Take a deep breath and gather your awareness into a glowing point behind your eyes inside your skull. Now let that glowing point just drop through your body, through your throat, through your solar plexus, through your torso, down your legs, and into the ground. Feel that awareness reaching down through the concrete floor into the soil. You have roots, and they are reaching through the cool, dark soil teeming with life, into the warmer rock beneath, deeper, deeper into the warm, pulsing heart of the earth herself. Feel that energy, and just for a breath, rest in contact with the energy of the earth, and then take a deep breath and begin to bring that energy up into you. Feel it rise up through your roots, through the soil, up your legs, up your body, through your throat. Feel it light up your head and come out. It pours out the top of your head like branches, connecting to the sun and the moon and the sky. And the energy rises up and then it falls back down onto you like rain. You let that sky energy rain back down on your body, and you feel the energy of the earth rise up and the energy of the sky come down, and they are moving through you. Now bring your inner awareness back to your center. And if you're feeling kind of buzzy or jangly, just let that extra energy flow back down through your feet into the ground. If you like, you can put your palms on the earth or on your chair and just feel it drain back. Keep what you need. Think now, take another deep breath. Feel that contact with the earth. And think about what you stand for, what we stand for together, the things we care about, and the reasons why we do this work. Feel the solidity and the strength we have when we stand together. And know that anytime you feel off balance, physically or emotionally, you can bring yourself back to this solid, grounded stance simply by feeling your feet on the floor and taking a breath. Now, take another deep breath and think of a time or a place or a situation in your life where you feel relaxed and at ease, where you can just be yourself. You don't have to impress anyone or achieve anything or exert your power, but you have power and energy available to you if you need them. Where your focus can be on the world around you and not on yourself. So picture yourself in that situation, in that condition, in that state. Say your name to yourself, the name you most identify with. Notice where it resonates in your body and touch that place. Or find a posture or a gesture you can make that feels connected to this baseline state. What image or symbol or picture comes to mind that can embody this state? Just take a minute to think about that, make that gesture.